Who would be a Wolves fan, eh?
On goes ball. People might yet win it here for Wolves. Flash in the shot. What a goal!
Hello everyone, welcome to our latest Wolves Fancast match review. On tonight's show, I'm your host Little Dan. If you haven't recognised me because the beard's gone, we'll be talking a bit more on how I've given up on Marshall Monetzi ever scoring for Wolves and yesterday's cup defeat away to Bournemouth. And joining me on tonight's show, I've got with me Josh Lem and Greg Richards. But before we start digressing and just downright become more and more disappointed in yesterday's defeat, in association with the Cleveland Arms, next Friday, David Kelly, who knows how to put a penalty away, is doing an evening with Steve Froggatt, and it's being hosted by Matt Murray. Tickets are still available at the Cleveland Arms website, which you can find at www.clevelandarms.com. It's just based on the Willenhall Road, just outside of Wolverhampton. If you haven't been there before, it's going to be a decent night. Plenty of football chats from two Wolves heroes from the 90s. And like I mentioned, David Kelly knows how to put a penalty away for those that remember that Sheffield Wednesday penalty shootout victory back in the mid-90s. So be sure to get tickets there. I'm hoping to be there myself. So, yeah, Friday night, March the 7th, starts at 8 p.m. Matt Murray's hosting the evening. Hopefully we'll be able to see you down there. As I mentioned, the show is in association with Sports Social Podcast Network. Thanks to everyone who's commenting already. I'm sure it's going to be a lively one tonight. Mike Evans has already started with how does Cunha go from hero to zero all the time. That'll be something I'm sure we'll be discussing a bit more in depth. A few more of us. Paul, Cunha is a disgrace. Let's slag Cunha off. Could be a bit more of that this evening, depending on how Josh and Greg feel. I've got my own sort of opinions, which I'm going to divulge. I made the journey yesterday. My alarm went off at 5:15, and I wish I would have slept through it. It was a really long ass day. To be honest, I wasn't even disappointed in the end because we didn't deserve anything from the game. But like classic Wolves of yesteryear, they managed to sucker us in with the hope that the football gods was conspiring to get us through. But unfortunately, it didn't end up that way. Sorry, spoiler alert. Greg, when the lineups came out at sort of 1:45 yesterday, I think on the previous show we were discussing how full strength we wanted Vitor to go. When the lineup came out at 1:45, what was your thoughts on the squad?
Yeah, I think there was we talked in the kind of the preview show. I'd already mentioned for Sar as the cup goalie, so I think most of them were expected. I think we'd obviously talked about Monetzi and Fulham and how that didn't really work out, and so we were. I think Josh, you called it. He was expected to see Strand Larson back in, and that did happen. So yeah, I think the only one I thought we probably was one I wasn't expecting was obviously Giga coming in for Doherty. I think we actually suggested I think that Giga was going to come in for Bueno, considering he had a particularly poor game. But obviously that what he'd gone with, and nothing there that was particularly surprising. Really, I mean, yes, I'd have gone now, but you could understand the logic behind what he was trying to do with the team. So nothing that was completely shocking, to be honest. But as you say, a couple of changes that were unusual.
Yeah, for those who are watching us live on YouTube, I'm not the sort of guy to sort of glorify women wearing Wolves shirts, but Eddie, I'm purely throwing Eddie under the bus here. Eddie shared Missy's shirt predictor _ in the WhatsApp group yesterday, and she predicted Wolves were going to go through. So I'm blaming Eddie / Missy's shirt predictor _ What was your thoughts on the lineup, Josh, when you saw like sort of Jigger was starting and the front three of Sarabia, Cunha, and Strand Larson?
But actually, probably more full strength than I expected. I thought we might have a couple more changes than that. The other thing I would say is, like, I know we're limited on options. I know we're going to go into all that, but why do we persist with playing Sarabia away from home? When was the last time we played away from home? Sarabia played well. You know, these sort of games he's never been any good at. And then, you know, you look and you just look at the team, and it's like there's only one place goals are coming from it now, and that's going to come from from Cunha and nothing else. You know, it was nice to see, you know, the new lad get a game. Obviously, Johnston going to get on too as well. But like I say, probably a bit more full strength than I probably expected. Maybe one or two more rotation players. I thought he might bring in Doyle, especially to play in that front three. Maybe give Lima some minutes as well. But obviously that never transpired. You're on mute, Dan.
Dan, you're on mute.
Of course I am. I was quite vocal on Friday when Ryan Lester of the Wolves Report put out the tweet saying how full strength do you think Wolves should go, and I put it in clear words: full fucking strength. I didn't think there was any excuses not to put out a strong side yesterday. We're not due to play again until 8 p.m. next Saturday. It was a chance to go through. Bournemouth were going to make changes. They had a defeat midweek to Brighton, so they weren't going to go full strength. But I couldn't really have asked for a much stronger side. When you look at the bench yesterday, apart from maybe Andre or even sort of Hwang instead of Sarabia, I think that was probably the strongest side that I expected him to put out, considering that Sam Johnson's been like sort of the cup keeper so far and he's done well in the 2 games. He had an outstanding game yesterday. Sam Johnson, I think he'll be one of the most players who's the most frustrated, because he's probably had the best game that he's had in his career maybe yesterday, and it's going to be completely forgotten about because of the way that we exited the cup. But the first sort of half an hour went really quick from inside the ground, but unfortunately Bournemouth did take the lead. Anton Semenyo had a bit of a left-footed shot, which at first point of view I thought Sam Johnson should have done a bit better with his parry away, but unfortunately it fell to Evan Nilsson. I assume you've seen the highlights, guys. What was your thoughts on the goal, Greg?
Yeah, I watched the game. I think like you say, I think it was quite. I think the commentary described it as a basketball game, a bit end to end, and I think that's probably a fair commentary, a fair reflection of how the game was, to be honest. And yeah,
I think we had a couple of half chances up until that moment. I think there was a chance that Cunha, I can't think who it was, on the edge of the box off a corner. I think we blocked it. Yeah. And then Strandlars had another half chance where he sort of swiveled from across and managed to sort of side foot it. So like you said, it was a bit of a basketball game, Greg, that first half an hour. But yeah, go on, carry on.
No, it's all right. It was also I found it quite fragmented as well, if that makes sense. I know that's a bit of a contradiction, but there was a lot of fouls in the game. And a lot of and again, a lot what we expect with Bournemouth, a lot of bitty fouls, a lot of pulling, a lot of stuff like that. And I think that kind of broke it up intermittently as well. But yeah, I thought we played okay without playing well. I didn't feel like we were controlling the game, and I don't think they were particularly either. Their set pieces, they'd had quite a few corners, but hadn't really done anything with them at all. And I felt like it was quite an even tempo game. And then kind of again, it felt a bit like defensive failings, not really, as you say. My initial reaction was that Johnson should have done better. I think I was probably a bit harsh on first pass. But yeah, unfortunately, put us on the back foot, which was not something we're good at.
Yeah, excuse me. I totally agree. I think what we've become a lot better under Pereira from Gary O'Neill is we are a lot more resilient defensively. We are a lot better at nullifying teams than what we was under Gary O'Neill. And like you said, that first half an hour, it was a bit sort of end to end, but it didn't really feel like they were cutting us open, even though they sort of dominated the first half. What was your sort of thoughts looking at the highlights, Josh?
Well, watching the highlights, I've got to say, what does Johnston think it's going to fall the way through to him, the long ball that goes through to Semenyo? He must do, because why is he out so far? What's he doing there? Does he not trust his defence to kind of clear that out? And then he's forced to make a save, and he knocked it straight to Evan Nilsson, which obviously fair enough. Like, he could do a lot more with the parry, I don't think. But why is he so far out in the first place, though? It's such a strange position. And you look, and it's like, especially after a goalkeeping mistake cost us Tuesday night, we've then done something similar again. There must be like an instruction going on there. But like the bits I saw, there wasn't a lot in the highlights from the kind of the first highlight of the game is the goals the goal we conceded. We had a few half chances, didn't we? But like I say, without really working Kepa or anything like that.
Yeah, Dale Sheaf's commented saying we had no control of the midfield and couldn't really handle the press, forced us into mistakes. Do you agree with that, Greg?
I think they did force us mistakes. I think for me, what it kind of showed was that actually highlighted the job that Andre does in front of the back foot. I think that in front of the defence. I think that's, for me, I can see what Dale was saying, although I don't really believe that they did an awful lot on the press anyway. I also feel that our way out of the press was to get into Strand-Larsen, who really kind of failed, if I'm honest, in terms of holding the ball up generally. Still seems to not be able to hold it. It always tends to bounce off a yard or two, which is not great at Premier League level. So yeah, I think what he was saying, but I do think that there wasn't really doing a lot with that press, and I do think it kind of highlighted for me the kind of the job that Andre does in terms of sweeping in front and giving us that kind of solidity kind of at the base of the midfield.
What's your sort of thoughts on Strand-Larsen, Josh, based on the comments of his sort of inadequate level of being able to be physical and be a lot better with the build-up play in that number 9 position? I think I'm just trying to find it quickly here on Twitter. Dan Butler analysis, who's been on the show before. Did you see his tweet earlier? I thought it was quite on the money, really. We're asking Strand-Larsen to basically be a battering ram and some sort of, an Ireland regen type thing, but that's not really his game by the looks of it. He's good at movement within the box, getting across defenders. He's obviously got an eye for a goal, considering it's his first season in the Premier League. He's got a decent tally, but it just seems to be like we're trying to flog him quite a lot, that when he's getting chances in the box like he did yesterday, he's not able to put them away or get enough contact on it because he's literally being flogged.
I think like that tweet, I was going to bring that up. I think it's spot on. He's got to be misprofiled because he just never holds the ball up. He's never, you might have won a game. It doesn't help, in fairness, that when he does hold the ball up, there's no one within 20 yards of him, or he's got 3 defenders around him, because that's how we play. But he just unconvincing until I think since Pereira's come in, he's kind of swayed the other way for me, where it'd be like under O'Neill, it looked like a definite sign. He can score goals. Maybe he just needs to work on his hold-up play, get used to the physicality of the league. I know he's been injured, but since Pereira's come in, he's, even them early games, Leicester, he didn't really do a fat lot, did he? Man United at home as well, he struggled to get in the game. And I'm starting to think, obviously I know he scored Tottenham away and that, but I just don't know with him. 25 million looks like a lot of money. I know Evan Nilsson's, they've paid double for that, but you look at the goal record Evan Nilsson has and the things he brings to the Bournemouth team, and you compare what we're getting with Lars, and it feels like they're getting the short end of the deal here.
Yeah, I'm just pulling Dan Butler's tweet up here. Obviously, for another spoiler alert for those who managed to miss the game yesterday, and the highlights and whatever afterwards, is obviously Matthias Cunha is going to be suspended now for a minimum of 3 games. And D Butler analysis on Twitter says one of the biggest ways I think Vitor Pereira can mend some of the attacking issues about Cunha is actually by using Strand-Larsen to his strengths. I think he's been wrongly profiled up to this point by both managers purely because of his size and build. A 6'4" centre forward doesn't have to be dominant aerially or hold the ball up. Strand-Larsen has 3 headed goals in the league in the last 2 years, ranks poorly for aerial duels won, and doesn't pass the eye test when the ball is lumped up to him. So why 2 managers in do we insist on still relying on him as some form of target man to relieve pressure when we know he's not good at it? His best work is his movement in the box, making runs across the front post or ghosting in between centre-backs for chances. Fair comments for you there, Greg?
I think it's an interesting comment. I still believe that regardless of that, he should still be able to control the football closer. I'm sorry, I will argue on that. I still think that, it's there. And even, like you say, even though he might not be an player, I still think you've got enough physical presence to be able to at least hold something or do something for a period of time. So I think that's true. But then if we're playing with a central striker and players off it, then where do you need to look at in terms of that? So he's a player that's going to kind of ghost in as a kind of a number 9 fox in the box type striker. Then we need to play someone off him or closer to him, it feels. So it's an interesting point. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's an interesting point. Yeah, if he doesn't score heady goals, there's no point swinging the ball into him in the box. Is what that, and that's an interesting take. But I do also think, there is a point where I'm thinking you've still got to be able to control a football. And I just felt yesterday, and again, maybe I'm being overly harsh and he's not quite fully up to speed. He's not maybe not fully fit. Maybe he's one of those players that needs a run of games to get sharpness. There's some players we know they need 2 or 3 games, or a few games to kind of get the sharpness back. Perhaps obviously this is still his first season, so perhaps we've got to make allowances for that. But I think it was just in that type of game, that's what we needed, and unfortunately he wasn't able to provide that, and that kind of compounded the issue.
Yeah, I'm sort of can't disagree with any of that. And I'm even more sort of in agreement with what Josh said in regards to how much we're going to have to. I think we've already obligated to sign him now, aren't we? It's a lot of money for a striker. But Maximus Writers says Larson will come good in terms of goal numbers, but he's always needed a season in his opinion, which we do not have. Problem with bringing in a striker with no Premier League experience, he does create openings for others though. So the jury's still going to be massively out on Larson when it comes to the end of the season, and based on what division we're in, it could be the reason why we stay up. He's going to be massive in these next 3 games coming up with minimum game suspension that Cunha's going to have to sit out. But we'll talk about that red card a bit more as the show goes on, because I think one of the things that was probably the biggest disgrace yesterday was Bournemouth's second goal, which was ruled out due to possible handball, possible offside. The only certainty was that the semi-automated offside technology was a bag of wank. Just an absolute annoyance. 8 minutes it took to make the decision yesterday. I was actually speaking to a Bournemouth steward at the time, and he couldn't work out what was going on. And I literally said, just give the goal. Let's just get this game moving again, because it shouldn't have got anywhere near that sort of level. It was embarrassing. And what was your sort of thoughts on the second goal, Josh? For me, when I was in the ground, I thought Kirk had handballed it. That didn't seem to be the reason why it was given. It seemed to be that Dean Huijsen was classed as being offside after a slight touch into the back of the net after I slated Sam Johnston for being in absolute no man's land for the corner that came in.
Yeah, it's you knew semi-automated wouldn't work for us, and we're always the first ones on the receiving end of it. We like, you know what I mean? It always seems to be us if something goes wrong. But we're first for a lot of things. We like, and all the bollocks that comes with it. But you look and like the semi-automated stuff, it's meant to make the game seamless, and it works in every other level, it feels like. But of course, our English refs can't get it. And then, you got 8 minutes of delay. It's like, what has happened to football that you got to sit there for 8 minutes to see if they can decide whether the goal counts or not? At what point do you not bring in a timer? Like, if you're not going to bring in some automated offside in the Premier League, do you not go, well, hang on, if it takes longer than a minute to decide if it's offside or not, then we'll just stick with the on-field decision or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just absolutely ridiculous. Again, but corners, though, it's the frailties, isn't it? They've been costing us all season, and they've nearly cost us again yesterday. And Johnston, another, what's he doing there? No man's land again. It's like we signed a keeper between Sarr and Johnston. We ain't got a good keeper between the two of them, haven't we? And we spent 10 million quid on Johnston this summer. We needed a centre half.
Yeah, I don't want to slide him because he had a really good game yesterday, but I don't understand how it's like he's got some sort of like rope pulley system on him that if he thinks about taking a yard out off his line, he thinks the ropes are going to pull him instantly like back into the goal or something. For a guy, I mean, he ain't even a small guy, is he? Obviously, he ain't like your I don't know, Thibaut Courtois, like massive goalkeeper, but he ain't a small guy. He's pretty stocky for a goalkeeper, and he doesn't dominate his 6-yard box as much as he needs to. And I thought a few times yesterday he was in no man's land coming for crosses. But yeah, he was probably our man of the match over the flipping 130 minutes or whatever it was. Your thoughts on that scenario with the offside, Greg, and basically is.
I actually started to smile because it's hilarious now how all these other fans have now, Forest fans, Bournemouth fans, have all now started to pile on the irony that they're now, or everyone's getting, not just us and the 19-1, but everyone's now getting knocked with it. And it's like, if you could do a shite job or something, you just get someone from PGMOL to do it. Because as soon as it's were, you know what I mean? You think, oh, I can't get any worse than this. You go like, hold my beer, lads. Just wait, we can cock this up in a new special way for you. And it's embarrassing. I mean, you're talking about the FA Cup and the history and all this, and then they're turning it into amateur hour. I mean, you'd get faster decisions playing Sunday League with one of the subs, on the line or something. It's an embarrassment, and they don't justify it, and it continues to go from bad to worse. And we can see it all as a fan base, and it is killing football. It really is. At the top level, it's absolutely killing football, and it's embarrassing, and particularly if you're in the stand, if you're watching the comms, the piece. It's awful. It really is awful, and they need to take a long, hard look at themselves because they've made the game about them instead of about a good referee. You don't know is there. Do you know what I mean? They get on and the game flows and they do things properly, and it was just like this is just it's horrific. I mean, you'll have games with the overtime. You'll be running till half-5 at this rate, so the 4:45 finishes. You'll be finishing at half-5, and it's embarrassing. It really is.
Just touching back on what you said a moment ago, Josh, in theory, it sounds bang on the money that if it takes longer than 30 seconds, a minute to come to a decision, you just give the goal or whatever. But like Greg just said, you can't trust these guys at flipping Stockley Park to make they'll be like pressing Control Alt and Delete for like 45 seconds trying to reboot the system. And I spent the majority of the game yesterday looking at my phone, see what the crack was with the offside, what was going on in like WhatsApp to try and get some sort of mental assurance of what was going on. But the signal in Bournemouth was absolutely crappy. It doesn't surprise me that the semi-automatic thing didn't work because the signal in the area was absolutely terrible. I haven't even got a still for the second goal that Bournemouth had disallowed because it was a blatant handball by Alex Scott. But there should have been 3-0 up at half time, and we wouldn't have been sort of hard done by, would we, Greg?
No. I think since their goal had gone in, you could start to see the fractures. You could start. For me, it started to highlight it more, and as you say, it was more of a relief than anything to go into the gap. Back in at half time at 1-0. You couldn't have, if you take the Wolves glasses off and you take a step back and look at it, you couldn't argue if Bournemouth had gone in 2 or even 3 up at that point. You really couldn't.
What was your sort of thoughts on that, the way the half ended, Josh? Did you see us managing to dig our way back into it? So it's 1-0's always that score on, isn't it? You're in the game, you're competitive, and like I said, we had a couple of half chances in the first half, but I said at half time that the fact that Bournemouth had those 2 goals disallowed, I said if we can win this game now, our name's on the trophy, because it just felt like one of those days where, like I said at the start of the show, it felt like the football gods were starting to conspire a victory for us. But what was your thoughts at half time?
Well, it's one of the things, isn't it? You're thinking, it's like you say, sometimes you think maybe the football gods are on our side, but obviously, spoiler, we know what happens in the end. And then you're thinking, well, the only way we're going to score is if we score a worldie, and spoiler, again, that also happened. But it's just the same. We seem to
an absolute wallop.
We seem to finish so poorly towards the end of the game, like at the end of the first half. Like against Fulham, we scored, we was on top, he's in the ascendancy. You think, I tell you, we could get another goal here, and we sat off him. And I don't know what it is. It must be like something in the tactics or something like that to kind of, let's get to half time and let's see what we can do. But, at this level, your team's going to punish you and they'll stick 2 and 3 past you.
Yeah, like I said, it could have been 2-3, 3-0 at half time. So let's go through some of the comments for a few moments. Paul saying, I want to hear some real talk about Cunha. It's on its way, Paul. Maximus Roy. Paul, I think he says a lot about Cunha. Some say he did it deliberately. I don't believe that, though, damaging his rep. If he thinks he has too much on his shoulders, he does not help himself. interesting to see what Cunha does later on. Need to sort his head. We need back the whole team these next few games. Maximus, right, on a positive note, I really saw something in Pond and Giga. What did you make to Nasser's performance over the period of time that he was on the pitch, Greg?
Yeah, I mean, you can see a level, I'd say, or two below Agbadou. I think that's the initial impression I get. So, if we were expecting another player of his level, I'd say he definitely isn't at that level. I think he did okay. I think he's probably the fairest. I think he did okay. He didn't do anything horrifically bad. He didn't do anything horrifically great either. So I thought he did okay. I'd be interested to see how he performed maybe instead of having Bueno next to him, how Agbadou do next to him, and see if that, like, being alongside a better player would improve him. But I think he just did okay. I don't know if you had a slightly different perspective in the ground. Sometimes it's hard on the TV to kind of get a full perspective of a player's performance because you're kind of following the ball a bit. But I thought he did okay without being, didn't do anything spectacular either way, to be honest. So,
yeah, from inside the ground, like, I can't really say much different, really. He was okay. Didn't look anywhere near as nervous as he did the week before. Thought the back three were, in general, okay, even though sort of, I mentioned the 2 goals that Bournemouth had disallowed. I don't think you could sort of pinpoint on any of the 3 centre-backs being at fault for those goals. And it was. I think he was a lot tidier on the ball yesterday than he was last weekend. I thought the back three, Totti was probably the best out of the 3 yesterday over the whole entire match. Santi was a bit sort of hit and miss for 8, but I don't think he really did anything wrong. He's still a bit of a conundrum for me. Sometimes he looks solid, he looks quick on the interceptions, and then sometimes he just looks like he's just fresh out of water, doesn't he? But what do you make to our defensive performance yesterday, Josh, over the game? Because the sort of second half, the more the game went on, and the amount of like goal line clearances that we had, and just bombing headers out the box, and thought sort of over the full match in entirety, I thought defensively we did really well. Sam Johnson had a really good game. I thought the defense did really well, and then it's frustrating we went out on penalties in the end. But I think defensively as a unit, they were pretty solid.
I think the big thing is the individuals, isn't it? Like, obviously it's the second squad in defence. I'm really not keen on Santi Bueno. I don't want to bring it up, but the Coventry game last year, I was a bit like, I don't know if he's good enough here. And I think he's had some good performances this season, but I don't know if he's to the level. He's like a proper Spanish centre half, like is from that league sort of thing. Obviously Uruguayan, but from La Liga, he's that sort of centre half, and they come in and they struggle physically. Vallejo didn't he, and stuff like that as well. I'm really not keen on Bueno. I think if in the summer, if there's a chance to shift him on, you've got depth there, I think it's one that I'd maybe potentially look at. Obviously we're bringing through the new lads, and you got Agbadou, who's been really good since he come in, and Totti got a lot of praise for yesterday, obviously a goal on clearance and things like that. But I guess the thing is that I know you said there, Dan, with like crosses come in the box and they're dealing with them, but that's a centre half's job at the end of the day. And we've got 3 of them on the pitch, and 3 of them can't keep across, can't do anything but can't knock the ball out the box with the red. Then they ain't centre halves, am they?
Yeah, when we're playing the numbers games with a back 5, like you said, I think that's always been the tactic in recent years, hasn't it? That we're okay.
Let them hit it in the box.
Let them get wide and cross it in, because we've got enough bodies in the box to get it away. Let's talk about the only positive from sort of the playing side of yesterday. It's Matheus Cunha's goal. Got it up on screen there for those who haven't already seen it. It's an absolute wallop of a finish. I think we've got a bit of a better picture as well somewhere, if I can quickly find it. The height that it went in and dipped so quickly. I haven't even got the picture. It doesn't even deserve much of our time, this goal, to be honest, because we've got a lot more things better to discuss. But like Josh said, I think earlier in the show, Greg, we needed something out of the football god's hands, and Matheus delivered it at that moment.
Yeah, and he's the player in the team that can do that. That's it. And then I think, Josh, you talked about that at the start. Where's the goal threat coming from? Where's it is? He's the player that has the capability to do that. Obviously, we saw Bellegarde's hit a decent one against Forest, but generally we're not seeing anyone else hitting it from that kind of distance, or with that kind of frosty. And I think that's the key. Is it's a wonderful finish. I mean, Kepa's no mug. I mean, I know he didn't cover himself in glory in Chelsea, but he's not a mug. And to be beaten so comprehensively from that distance just kind of gives you a flavour for the strike and how well it was struck. It was a great goal, and an unexpected one as well.
Yeah, your mate Josh Dean Marsden says all comes from Santi's pass. That does.
You know, I'd rather give Santi the credit for the goal than fucking Cunha anyway, so he can have that.
Yeah, I mean, all the power from Cunha's shot was all in the build-up play, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like Greg said, Kepa's a solid keeper. Chelsea, I know he didn't do great there. Chelsea probably would have spent the money that they did on him, but he was worth the money at the time. And like I said, he comprehensively beaten from the area in the stand that I was when it left his foot. It didn't seem like it was on its way in, but then you see a crowd go up, you hear the noise, and you think, fucking hell, it's actually gone in, that has. And it was just absolute scenes. And then obviously the Cunha again, Olay starts ringing around the stadium, and you think, you're a bastard, you, and where have you been all game? And then you go and pull that out the hat. But it to me, he didn't look fit throughout that game yesterday. He looked a few that was sort of burnt out, and Vito Perez said after the game that there was 3 or 4 of them managing knocks, which it's one of them. I said before the game that he needs to go full strength, but if there were sort of, close to these red zones and whatever, it's all hindsight. I'd be a hypocrite now if I said he shouldn't have played them, but I thought we should have played a really strong side yesterday. And like Josh said, the subs that they were able to bring on compared to the subs we were able to bring on. Let's try and get the squad up for a quick second. Just remember who the bench was at the start of the game. So you had Dan Bentley, Matt Doherty, Marshall Manetzi, Boubacar Traore, Andre Huang, Doyle Lima, and Alfie Pond. What did you make to young Alfie's performance from the moment he came on, Greg?
He did all right. I mean, it was a hard one because when he came on, we were pretty much backs to the wall at that point. We were kind of defending, but I think he did a solid enough job. We closed down. You watch him; he was closely. He was playing out on the right, which I'm not sure if is his natural position, if I'm honest. But he was there. He was closing down. He was tracking. He looked. And the reality is he'll be good for those minutes. These guys have got to get opportunities. Otherwise, we're never going to know whether they're going to be good enough ultimately. So it was probably there. And I think he closed down and he worked hard without doing anything, particularly noteworthy. I didn't think he did anything. He didn't make any real mistakes. Contributed to quite, like you said, a good rear guard action, to be honest, at the end of the second half and into extra time.
Yeah, I thought he was solid when he came on. I didn't understand the substitution at the time. I thought Pedro Lima was the answer at that particular moment. But like you said, we were literally backs to the wall. And I watched a couple of Bournemouth YouTube channels earlier on today, and they were calling it anti-football. But basically, I think the energy and intensity that we had left on the pitch at that time, and when Cunha got sent off, there wasn't really much option, really. I think it would have been reckless to bring on Pedro Lima. I think he's got a lot to offer still, but coming up against like Utara and whoever else they had on that, Kirkes on that side of the pitch at the time, I think would have been difficult for Pedro to defensively stay disciplined, because he likes to bomb forward, doesn't he? And Alfie did a really strong performance there. I was surprised that Doherty didn't go to right wing back, and then Alfie went centre, because I think he's naturally a centre off from what I gather. But I think he did himself no harm yesterday, Alfie. And if he was called upon again, I wouldn't be against it. I obviously don't want him to be pushing for a sort of starting place in the Premier League anytime soon. But I think if we have another sort of moment like we did yesterday, where his back's against the wall, I'm really not against Alfie getting more minutes. Let's talk about Mateus's moment of madness. Try and get it up on screen for a quick second. It's just an absolute farcical moment from the Brazilian. Headbutt, a little bit of a kick on the floor, bit of a slap in the build-up. it looks a bit something like a WWF, WWE, whatever you want to call it at the start. There's a few close fists that go towards Kirkes's head, but wasn't really enough contact. I mean, he ain't going to be having a sore head or anything. I think he'll be more embarrassed of the situation, Kirkes. But your thoughts on Cunha, and did he cost us that going through yesterday, Josh?
I don't know where to start with it. I really don't. I think it. Oh, you know what? I'd rather him. Like, you stay on the pitch, and he was meant to take fifth penalty. Obviously, in the end, it come down to the fifth penalty. But I'd rather him stay on the pitch and miss the fifth penalty than. And the thing is like this time last week, I was genuinely excited for the rest of the season. I thought, okay, not been great so far, but we're getting somewhere under Pereira, and we look like we're making right steps, and we've got a potential cup quarter final coming up in like a weekend FA Cup and home game against Fulham. And now I'm dreading it again because that's your star player that's done that, and I can't believe it. What's going through your head in the 119th minute, and he's also balls himself up for a big move in the summer for me, because what self-respecting big elite club is going to take a player that has got he's going to have at least 5 games worth of bans across this season? They can't afford that. They're not going to take the gamble on that. It's just such a brain-dead moment, and the apology is such half-arsed afterwards. And for me, that's the final straw. I've defended him, to be fair, on social media. The strops, the lack of effort. I can forgive that with the quality he's got, but that's it's put us back in the shit, and it's a good job Ipswich and Leicester ain't that great, but you give him out. That's going to give so much confidence and help to Ipswich and Leicester in that position that they're going to think, we've still got a chance here. And a week ago, they was dead and buried. And, it's just so pathetic from... He had the captain's armband at the time. He's one of the group leaders. And as much as I don't want to give O'Neill credit or anything like that, he was spot on when he said about these players. Between them, they got an emotional intelligence of a 5-year-old, didn't they? But a lot of them, there's no composure, and they're just... Any bit of adversity, they put the arms up in the air and they give up.
This is why we've had so many captains leave in recent years, haven't we? And why there is no sort of emotional stability or discipline. I think like the standards at the training ground have been lost in recent years since the likes of Cody Neves, John Ruddy. Those voices within the dressing room have all disappeared now. Your thoughts on the red card, Greg, and I'll go to some of the comments section.
I mean, it really angered me, and the reason why it's angered me is because you could kind of see it coming. He's been doing all this gesticulating. He did it in the Fulham game. He did it in this game, and this isn't someone who's 18, 19-year-old. He's been playing for a lot of seasons now, and he's got a position of authority, whether that through his contract or through that, like you said, Josh, through that the captain's armband or the team leadership and that. And it's just stupid. And there is everyone. Of course, they were going to wind him up, and any club now would be watching him, particularly after the whole Ipswich debacle, and go, "We're just going to take it in turns and niggle him." And just niggle him and see what happens. And when he comes back, that's exactly any team that's going to play us is going to do exactly the same thing. And it's infantile. And what kind of example is he setting as a role model, as a leader or a perceived leader in the dressing room in the club, to be doing this for the second time? And the reality is he'll probably get 4 games at least anyway, because it's his second one. And it's just silly, and it runs a real risk of putting us in the shit. I know, Josh, you're probably right. They probably are. Ipswich and Leicester probably aren't good enough. But why do it? It makes no sense at all. And I think I do disagree with you slightly, Josh, in terms of will other teams buy him? Yes. And I think the reason why other teams buy him is because he'll be not the main man there, and he may be a squad player, and they'll have more games because they'll be in Europe or whatever, so they can afford that rotation. But nevertheless, it's just an idiotic move from a player who should know better. You know, he's had all that debacle. He said sorry, bosses, and all that stuff. But he wasn't really that sorry, because within a matter of months, he's done the same thing. It just sets the whole tone. And when we're struggling and we've got forward players, we've obviously talked about Strand Larson. That's not, I don't feel was at the races. He's put even more pressure on that. You've got Juan coming back from injury. You've got Guedes out. So you're looking at our attacking options are very limited at the moment. And he's put even more pressure on something that was just not needed and completely stupid. Did it cost us the game? Maybe, maybe not. But nevertheless, it's just, for us, it's just so frustrating for someone to do something like that. It's just not needed.
Yeah, I don't know whether it definitely cost us the game, because his legs had already gone by that point. He was running on empty. I think he was seen holding his hamstring before the sending off.
Yeah. But it's not just the sending off, though, Dan, is it? I mean, Tim's just made the point. I was just going to make that point. Tim's just put in the chat that it wasn't just the fact he got sent off. It was all the palaver in the tunnel after. All that kind of throwing a tantrums of having players trying to drag him in and all of that as well. I mean, it's embarrassing. You've been sent off. Get on with it. This whole it was a red card. So why are you then getting even more of a prat by then throwing tantrums and having to be dragged down the tunnel after that? You probably wouldn't have seen that, Dan, necessarily. They showed it quite clearly on the TV stream yesterday. And it's just, it's just silly. It's that petulance again, and it's setting a really bad tone for us as a club.
I hope to God that we win the next 3 or 4 games without him, and we can just fuck him off and say, you know what, go and fuck off to Brazil till you get a move. And I think, I said this to Dean the other week, I think he'll end up in Saudi. Because I think now he's really, like I said, I don't know if an elite team will go for him, but the money that the release clause is at 62 million, they'll offer him a load of money on the wages, won't they? They're targeting that younger quality players now, like they did with Duran. He's already failed at once at Atletico Madrid. He's played at the elite level, didn't work out. I think he'll end up in Saudi Arabia. But like I say, win the next 3 and 4 and just say to him, you know what, go and fuck off to Brazil, will you? For 4 months and go and get a move in the summer. Because this stats is bullshit. That is what he did yesterday. And it's the consequences of giving Ipswich and Leicester that chance.
I mentioned it in our WhatsApp group earlier. I'm not sure it sort of goes hand in hand with, I said, a lot of these players were sort of running on empty. But the lack of people that went to celebrate the goal with him was something that stood out for me yesterday. I think there was only Sarabia and Santi Breno who actually ran up to actually celebrate him. There was a couple of angles, which I've seen, I think, on the BBC Sport Instagram page, because they showed it from about 6 or 7 angles. There was a couple of players who, once the ball hits the back of the net, John Rick the Bellegarde, for one, he looks gutted that the ball's gone in the back of the net. If you see that one angle on Instagram, it's like, oh, for fuck's sake, he's only going and done it again. I think it makes you wonder what sort of relationship it is going on in the dressing room at the moment. I know, like, the Brazilian lads are always constantly playing head tennis in the gym and whatever, but I said that after the Fulham game in the week, there does seem to be cliques within the team, especially during games. I think Ryan Aitnoy doesn't want to pass to anyone but Matheus Cunha. I think there is a bit of a fraction maybe going on. Like, I'm hoping, like you said there, Josh, I hope we go on a little bit of a run there, because these players haven't got a sort of default to what appears to be just plan A, get the ball to Cunha and hope he does something. They've got to muck in together as a unit now and try and get over the line in one way or another. We mentioned earlier, Dan Butler, with that analysis, we need to try and utilise Strand Larson a bit better. Maybe Vita Pereira has got to tweak the build-up play in a certain way, so we're getting more service into Strand Larson. Someone mentioned it earlier. Bournemouth had 18 corners to our 1 yesterday. For a striker who's 6'4", he needs a bit more than 1 corner a game to try and work off. But who was your man of the match over the 90 minutes, Josh, before we start getting into extra time? Anyone come out for you with a lot of credit? I think Sam Johnson's probably the guy for me, really.
Yeah, I've got to say, in fairness, like I've only really caught the highlights of it because I was watching another football game yesterday. We'll not comment on that. But you know what I mean? Like the bits I saw, Johnston probably. Obviously, that's before the extra time, and he does make a couple of good saves in extra time, doesn't he?
Yeah, in the 90 minutes and extra time, I think he made two close range saves from
The
Dean
Lewis Cook
Huyson
one's
and
really
Lewis
good.
Cook one. I thought in the ground there should have been scoring it, but I think it's just one of them, isn't it? You get a good enough headed contact from that sort of close range, you expect it to go in, but he's able to get a hand up quickly, and it was two big saves. Who came out with credit for you, Greg, over the 90 minutes?
I'm actually gonna go. So yeah, I mean, Johnston's made some good saves. I think what we've seen is he's a good reflex kind of instinctive goalkeeper. But like you said, Dan, I think crossing's where the weaknesses are for him. I'm gonna go for Totti again. I know that's probably another easy shout, but again, I think plays well, gives us some particular structure on there, works well with Nori. So I'd call out Totti again. I thought he played really well and does help. You know, I think we're so much stronger with him in. I think next season, I think Josh, when you were talking about Bueno, I think if we look at if we've got a fit squad, I think the back three is Totti, Agbadu, and probably Mosquera. So there'll be space from at that point. But yeah, I'm going to go with Totti. I thought I really have. For me, ever since he's come back from injury, he's kind of been a bit like a different player. And I can't be failed. Yeah, but I can't be failed to be impressed. I thought he was excellent again yesterday.
Yeah, he was the one who did the one goal line clearance. I think Sam Johnston was around the penalty spot and Totti was on the goal line clearing. I think that might have been an extra time. I can't really fault him. Like you said, since he's come back into the team, he seems to have gone up levels. I think the last two games. Against Fulham and yesterday, I think Agbadu would have been massive in those two games just to give us a bit more solidity at the back. Like Josh said earlier, we dealt with the crosses really well across the entirety of the match, but I think Agbadu would have given us a bit more of just a lot of stronger elements, and I think that bit of extra legs instead of Alfie Pond being able to be brought on, you would have had sort of Doherty or Santi Breno as an option then. But over the 120 minutes, thought we were brilliant defensively. Also, the Bournemouth fans said it was anti-football, but our defence did the job, and we just didn't have the legs to cause them any problems on the break, did we, Greg?
I think the irony of Bournemouth and anti-football with some of the dross that they used to have with Eddie Howe and the dark arts and the constant diving and that there, I think is a bit ironic, if I'm honest. So yeah, I think we're going to be their new. As they don't really have any rivalries, really. I think they may see us as a rival. They really don't seem to like us as a football club. I don't care. But yeah, I think what we realised is we weren't going to be taking the game to them because we would have just got countered and got breaks. And so Victor did what he thought best, which was just to hold it, get the solid, take it through, see if we could pick something off, either another Cunha moment or a set piece or something else, and just kind of hold on. And that was the reality, particularly into extra time. Yeah,
let's talk about one of the substitutes because we've got to talk about it. Because Dean commented at the start of the show saying, "Where's the beard, Dan?" Marshall Manetzi, Josh. I think there's been enough minutes and appearances now to at least make an outlandish review on the player. You expect a full season of a player to give him a full judgment, but what do you make of him in the appearances that he's had so far?
Not great. Very much screams of what he was a panic deadline day signing. You know, I mean, it says a lot in it when like their fans were going, "Oh, gotta love Wolves for getting rid of, for taking us off him." It's like we'd do the same for, if they got rid of Hwang, so if team going for Hwang, wouldn't we? But I think in fairness, like the first couple of games, Blackburn and Liverpool, and into a point Fulham as well, he's just been stuck in that false nine role as like, well, do a bit of both for you. in between the boxes and stuff like that. And that's not fair on him because obviously he's not. He's a midfielder. Be interesting to see him now. Maybe Sean Larson's back if he does any better, but he wasn't convincing against Fulham. And again, like yesterday, you don't tend to read positive things and things like that about him. So you're looking 20 million quid was probably quite the overspend.
Tim Green, I ain't got me glasses on, but I've managed just about read it, and he's nicknamed Marshall Manetzi, Mr. Netzalotzi, and I can't really disagree. At first, I thought he was getting into the areas really well. I was unlucky not to get at least one away at Blackburn. Should have scored the 1-on-1 against Liverpool. Missed a sitter away at Bournemouth last week, and I know I made the comment that I wasn't going to shave, but he ain't scoring. He's another lump, isn't he? He might have a bit of energy, but even he's now one of the 4 players that apparently picked up an injury after the defeat yesterday. And at the start, so I said we should have went full strength, but now I'm regretting saying that because we've got now Cunha suspended for 3, maybe 5 games. We've got Everton at home next week, and that's another huge game, isn't it? But let's just talk about the penalty shootout before we sort of preparing to close the show. Greg, when they managed to get to penalties, how confident were you? Someone posted a clip or a screenshot on Twitter or in our WhatsApp group earlier. I think we've won one or something like the last 8 penalty shootouts that we've been in. How confident was you at the end of full time? Because like I said to you earlier, at half time, I thought the football gods was conspiring. I was like, the belief was so high for me inside the ground. And then obviously Strand Larsen steps up and puts the first one away. How confident were you?
I wasn't, for that reason, what you've just outlined, the stats. We don't win penalty shootouts. There have been some glorious ones over the years. I'm looking back to like the Wolves Sheffield Wednesday FA Cup one. I can go back a little bit further. But we just don't. And you're looking at some of the players that were going up. Andre hasn't scored for us yet. I know he's not that type of player, but you looked at the team with Cunha out and I'm thinking, yeah, I'm not feeling massively confident here at all. And you know, it was one of those. Even when we went up in the penalty shootout, I still had a nagging doubt, and unfortunately, it was proven right. But yeah, not confident. Not confident.
Josh, how confident were you?
I thought when Johnston made the save on the 4th one, I was like, oh my God. Because I obviously, like I said, I think to mates that I've seen us win 2 in my lifetime. I think one was when we beat Wars in the JPT trophy at Molineux. I'm pretty sure we went to penalties, and then Reading in the cup. And I was like, should have got to win one eventually. You know, we threw it away against Forest a couple of years ago for a semi-final. So I was like, this is the time. And then you see, you know, you think, oh, Johnson's finally done something. I know he made a couple of saves next time. I think, oh my God, big moment this is. And Doherty, you'd back, wouldn't you? Are the ones to take a penalty. I mean, when you think like Totti stepped up and took one, and you think, tell you what, this is a good one here. But why is he not just stuck it down the middle? Like, there's no keeper in the modern game stays on the feet today for a penalty shootout. Stick it down the middle, and I can also accept it if you're. I mean, it's easy to sit in with Chris Cheek, isn't it? But I'd also accept it if Kepa had saved it, but he's hit it wide. It's like fucking. And then after that, you know, and like Troy away at the next take, you're like, yeah, you knew what was going to happen.
That was the thing for me, is the fact that you looked at all the players that was left on the pitch when there was like huddled up after extra time, and there wasn't really anyone that I would have sort of banked my savings on to score a penalty for Wolves. We talked about Andre. I think I said like when he stepped up, it's like Carl Emery taking a penalty when Andre stepped up. I had no confidence in him scoring. I didn't have any confidence in Totti scoring. We talked about Ait-Nouri being like, you know, a bit of a maverick, and I had no idea how he was going to execute his penalty, and his penalty was probably the best one of the whole lot. But just showing it on screen, obviously Dean Huijsen for Bournemouth stepped up, and then Doherty. I mean, it's like he doesn't even sort of skim the outside of the post, Greg. And literally, out of all those Wolves players that was left on the pitch at that moment in time, you would have wanted him to be the one that scored the winning penalty.
Yeah. I mean, you would, and it would have been great for him and great for us, but it just was an awful penalty. Like you say, and Josh, you said it right. Put your foot through it, kind of like what Aitnori did, but at least make the keeper work. And it just kind of summed it up in a weird way. On reflection, obviously, it's a lot easier that way, but it just summed our day up. And particularly with the Cunha thing, it just summed our day up completely. And now we got to kind of bounce back quickly. But yeah, not great.
Maximus Roy's comment is saying Doherty missed in our last FA Cup match, same round. Can you refresh my mind what game that was?
Did we not have one against Fulham? But obviously it wasn't the same round, was it? I don't think. Do you remember when
the snowy one?
Yeah, did you not lose that on penalties? Or did we lose that in normal time?
No, I think we did lose that on penalties. I'm just it's obviously that long ago now. But that's penalty shit I remember was obviously the Forest one that you mentioned a few minutes ago. So it must be that snowy game. Yeah, I don't think I even went that night. That Fulham snow game. I think.
But I don't think that was the same round. I thought that was like a cup round.
It wouldn't have been. I don't think it was the same round
because it was like January time, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was the same day Sir Jack died, wasn't it?
It's possible that he could have missed.
Probably.
Yeah. So no, it's.
Yeah. Hit the like button if you would have scored Matt Doherty's penalty yesterday. Sort of what you said there, Josh, a moment ago. I think if Kepa would have saved it, you would have been like, oh. I said in the stadium, I'd rather have him Panenka'd it and Kepa have just stood there and caught it, because at least I would have appreciated the audacity of him trying to Panenka it to hit the penalty wide. I'm so disappointed for him and disappointed in him at the same time, because out of all the players that was left on the pitch, I wanted him to score the winning penalty, because it would have added to all the moments that he's already provided us. What I keep on saying that in recent weeks is that he's been one of our best pound for pound signings, and it would have added to all the things that he's brought to the club over the 12, 13 years that he's been in Old Gold, and it was massively frustrating. And you see the teams that have made it through today: Fulham beating Manchester United on penalties, Preston beating Burnley. When the draw comes out tomorrow night, I think tomorrow's going to be a really sore day.
Have you not seen the draw?
Oh, has it already happened? I thought it was tomorrow.
Do you want to know? Are you going to feel better if I tell you Bournemouth got?
Bournemouth got Man City
at home.
See, but I said this though before the flipping after the Fulham game. I said I backed just to beat anyone in the quarter-final at home.
Villa got Preston.
They're going to win the fucking lot. They're going to win the FA Cup and the Champions League.
Yeah,
Villa won't win the Champions League. I'll do you that favour now, mate. Villa will not win. They might sneak this FA Cup, giving away its opening out, but they ain't going to win the Champions League.
They're going to win the Champions League, and it's going to be just another chapter.
Then, mate, they're not. And I'll tell you,
to hear me out, it's going to be another chapter in how much of Man United has become a circus of a club. Because if Marcus Rashford lifts the Champions League before Man United, it just embarrasses them even more. And Villa are the most jammiest football club in the history of the game. It's just all set up for it.
I'm not placed right now, but I promise you, Villa ain't going to win the Champions League. I promise you. You're looking at Real starting to click into gear. And what you got to remember is those kind of teams, they only have to play 4 or 5 games a season. Let's be honest. Their standard in their league is nowhere near as competitive as the Premier League. So they can rest players, they can bring players in and out. They're geared up for that kind of competition. So I'll promise you, I'm being confident now. Things around shaving or anything like that, but I'm very confident Villa will not win the Champions League. It'll be a stretch too far. FA Cup's different. FA Cup is very much a different conversation, particularly the way that's opened out. But no, I don't fancy no chance on the Champions League, mate.
Just to sort of put you in a position of going viral as well, Josh. How much of Villa definitely not winning the Champions League?
100% not. Have you either got after Bruges? Do they not play Liverpool?
No,
If they go through.
they've got the winners of PSG and Real Madrid, haven't they?
PSG got Liverpool, didn't they? I'm pretty sure PSG
Oh, is it
got.
that one? Oh yeah,
I'm
because
pretty sure.
Arsenal
There's no fucking way they're beating Liverpool over 2 legs, is there?
when the jam gets jammy, Josh, you'll see.
More
Telling
chance.
you, Villa and winning the Champions League.
Nah. They might win the cup though, and I think that's concerning. But
Yeah.
you know what annoys me? Like Man City at home, if we'd have had them, that would have been our biggest game. It'd have been the biggest Man United game. I mean, you'd have really fancied us, wouldn't you? And it's you wouldn't have fancied us, but you thought, there's a chance here. But it's typical. We threw it away, didn't we? And I think it couldn't have gone worse yesterday. We couldn't get getting red carded. It was like an absolute shambles of a day, and it was just it summed up the season of anger, frustration, total fucking apathy watching us this season.
For those who, like myself, weren't aware of the FA Cup draw taking place earlier, the draw is Fulham at home to Crystal Palace, Preston North End against this year's winners, Aston Villa are doing the double. AFC Bournemouth at home to Man City, Brighton at home to the winners of Ipswich versus Nottingham Forest, which is being played tomorrow night. Just imagine if, like, Villa won the Champions League and we got relegated and Albion won in the playoffs. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Right, if not Forest get Villa at Wembley for a semi-final, it's been like 2 blocks to Nicky fucking misses, won't it? There, Nuno get to an FA Cup final, Villa get to a cup final. Sorry to the pressure on a Sunday night.
I know. I've just said, imagine Villa winning the Champions League and Albion winning the playoffs. On top of we're getting relegated. We may as well just keep pissing on our own cheeks and pouring petrol on our own faces. Looking at the draw there, Greg: Fulham Palace, Preston Villa, Bournemouth City, Brighton versus Ipswich or Forest. Who's your FA Cup winners this year?
I don't know why. I've just got a feeling around Brighton. I've just got a bit of a feeling around Brighton. There's no logical rationale behind it. I just think that they've got a good side. I know Forest, assuming they go through against it, which will be a tough test. It just feels like it's going to open up for another team other than Man City. It just feels like it'll be there, and I've just got a sneaking suspicion on Brighton. I know you've obviously, Villa is definitely one to be wary of, or certainly to consider in this case. But I just don't know why. I don't think they've ever won anything trophy-wise either. It just feels like it's set up for something a bit different, and I don't know why. No, nothing else other than they're a decent side, and just got a feeling on them. That's all.
Can we take some form of optimism that hopefully Ipswich Town and their players get distracted by the cup run and we can manage to get a result there next month, Josh?
You can help, but like I say, the worrying thing for me is what Cunha's done is give him like a bit of fight, to give him a bit of help again, isn't it? Like, just so unnecessarily. Probably this time last week they were thinking, oh, they're as good as dead and buried, and then within a week we've managed to throw it all away. I mean, obviously Fulham, it didn't kind of matter in the end, but you think if we'd have beat Fulham, you'd go like, well, it didn't work out. Cunha's been banned, but we got 8 points there, 9 points on goal difference. It's like, can you really see him catching up there? I mean, like, you just worry now, where's the goals coming from? Because it feels like under Pereira we're more Cunha FC than we ever wasn't. Well, than we was under O'Neill for me. It's like Larson scored 1 goal since he's come in. Obviously, Bellegarde scored 1. We need Rodrigo Gomez and Guedes back fast, or we ain't going to score a goal, let alone win a game.
Yeah. Looking towards next weekend, Leicester are away to Chelsea. It's not a full schedule next week. Ipswich are away to Crystal Palace. So Wolves at home to Everton is another chance to try and build on the cushion that we've got with that 5 points at the moment. You'd back Chelsea to beat Leicester at home, wouldn't you, Greg? Yes,
absolutely. Half. I mean, bear in mind, Chelsea have got about 3 squads the amount of players they've accrued. You'd think they should have enough of a team enough to put out 11 players to beat, a very poor Leicester team, very porous Leicester team. I think for us, it's Saturday is now huge, and the fact that we're playing the last game, the game, on the Saturday, the 8 o'clock kickoff, I think really just ups the ante now. Because if we get beat and we get beat bad, and I hope to dear God we don't, but that's really, it's gonna be now who's going to step up, how are we going to do against, let's be honest, a really improving Everton team under Moyes. This wasn't an Everton team that we could have been looking to get revenge against under, you just look at under Dyche, you're now looking at a Moyes team that have been picking up results, look a lot more solid. And I think for us, it's going to be a huge game. And, we're going to really need to get behind the team on Saturday. For me, it's a big, big game. If we get something out of that, even if it's a point, I think it's huge. I think it really does now up the ante for that and to become a really critical game for us.
Same mindset, Josh?
Ipswich, 3 o'clock on the Saturday.
Yeah, so next weekend's fixtures is Forest at home to Man City at 12:30. The 3 o'clocks are Liverpool at home to Southampton, Crystal Palace at home to Ipswich, Brighton at home to Fulham, Brentford at home to Villa, and Wolves is the 8 o'clock on Saturday. On the Sunday, go on.
Go on, sorry, mate. Imagine if Ipswich beat Palace, how much our arses are going to be giving.
That's what I mean.
I don't think Palace's home record's as good as their away either, is it?
No. Although they have picked up since them first 8 games where they didn't win one. I read they've got the 4th best record in the league. So, but again, they've got no Mateta and Ketty has not been great for him, is he? You know what I mean? You're like, I don't know. It's one of them. I think obviously if Palace win, then it becomes a bit of a free hit again. But you can't keep. They're not going to keep doing this. They're going to pick up results eventually. The big one, Southampton, and I really feel that that's the banana skin for us.
For those that aren't aware, I'm not sure if either of you two have saw Leicester's next batch of fixtures. So next Sunday, they're away to Leicester. The Sunday after, they're at home to Man United. Then the travel away to Man City in the midweek. Then they've got Newcastle at home. And then the travel to Brighton away. I just can't. We needed another favour off Man United like we did earlier in the week, but I think Leicester will maybe, hopefully, at least 9 points behind us by the time we have to play them the back end of April. I'll try and just quickly show you who Ipswich are due to play soon. They've got Crystal Palace away, Nottingham Forest at home, Bournemouth away, and then us at home, followed by a trip to Chelsea away. It's literally all in our hands now, with or without Matheus Cunha, but these next 3 games is Everton at home, Southampton away, West Ham at home. Yeah. We've got to be taking at least 4 points from those 3 games, Greg.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking more at Ipswich than Leicester. If at the 2, I mean, those 2 teams, and this might turn around and bite me on the arse. I mean, Leicester has been awful. I mean, they're back. They're kind of moving towards Southampton levels of poorness at the moment. I think if there's one that if I had to call it out, I think Ipswich would be the one that's probably the bigger threat, ironically. And I think that game at Portman Road is going to be huge. I mean, that's going to be absolute cauldron. And they're going to have to be. They will be up for it, guaranteed. And that's the one. And the reality is, if we can pull a result out or 2 before then, get some points in, it does take the heat out of you. If they're within touching distance, it's going to be, it'll be a real game of football down there. And we're going to have to, particularly with what's his name up front? Oh, his name eludes me.
Della.
Who caused us no in the home game.
I think a lot of the players were or had mentally checked out on Gary O'Neill at that Ipswich home game.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But I think for me, if we can avoid defeat in the 2 games versus Ipswich and Leicester, I think it might just be enough, because I think we'll hopefully manage to get some form of other results by hook or crook with the remaining fixtures. And like you've already alluded to, the teams below us, they're struggling to pick up wins at the moment. They will pick up wins at some point, but I think it's in our hands now, with or without Cunha. And I still think we've got a strong enough 11 to not get beat by Ipswich and Leicester. But
I'm
Wolves
hoping this
never
is
do the things the easy way, do they, Josh?
parallels to when Neves got them yellow. He got banned for 2 games, them yellow cards, Chelsea and Brentford, and it was like, also no, Cunha's more important than Neves was in that particular time frame. But I'm just hoping maybe this is like the kick up the arse, and it's like the players. It's the start of like the next generation of players coming through. You know what I mean? I'm looking at the minute now, and I'm like, Bellegarde's like our best attacker that's currently fit. And like 3 weeks ago, I would have gone like Bellegarde. I'd rather play with 10 men, and now I'm like, we're relying on Bellegarde, Stan Larson, Sarabia. The big thing is as well Saturday night, and I know it's not going to happen because it doesn't. Got to get behind the players, and it's got to be a good atmosphere again, because it's the amount of times they're letting these games pass us by and things like that. Yeah, we got to start getting behind the players, as whether even with Cunha being banned now, I think that's more of a reason to get behind him. Because if you think, you know what, we have got to see his face again for the rest of the season, it's advantage us as fans.
I think that's a fair comment. Is the fans next week? I think Kishan said it earlier. Yeah, fans really have to make Molineux feisty next Saturday. Plenty of drinking time. With it being an 8 o'clock kickoff, there's no excuses for a good atmosphere next week. Hopefully, we don't start it like the way we did against Fulham this midweek, just gone, because we need the fans to get behind these players. And it's a bit like would you say we're going into the game at home to Everton and slight underdogs now? We've got Cunha missing, Greg.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. Although, to be fair, I think if we can get him and get feisty and we play with the intensity we play against Villa, then that'll be good. I mean, the other good thing will be is that Everton will be well represented. It ain't going to be like a pocket of fans in the corner. They'll be there. They'll be noisy. You know, they're in a good run of form. So I think that does always help us as a crowd, bizarrely, if you've got a decent away end in there, it kind of rolls us up as well. So I think we need to just, like you say, get under the lights, atmosphere, big game, few beers in you, and just we've got to really get behind them from the off, and they've got to respond with a strong positive. You know, they've got to start with a real positive, aggressive, front-footed attitude, and then that'll continue to, the fans will then feed off that. So they've really got to come out with some intent. I don't want to see them kind of trying to settle into that. They've really got to press and harry and really show what they're about, and then we'll kind of all kind of loop around, if you know what I mean. We'll feed off that, and that'll drive them forward.
Yeah, I think the only thing that's concerning at the moment, because you mentioned a moment ago, Josh, is that Bellegarde's been one of our better players in the last few games, and I think Vita Pereira said he was one of the 4 players that had picked up an injury yesterday. I think it was Bellegarde, Menezes, Doc and Cunha who all were managing or had picked up injuries yesterday. So I'll be interested to see what Vita Pereira's got up his sleeve system and squad-wise for next Saturday. But he knows from now on Cunha's not even going to be an option, so he's got a week to put something together, and hopefully it can get us a squad together that can get us over the line. We managed to beat Villa with a half-hearted Matheus Cunha, so with a player in his position who's got a bit more oomph about him on the day, hopefully we can get a result at home to Everton next Saturday. Thanks to everyone who's joined us, and thanks to Tim Green, who's provided the optimism that the supercomputer has given us a 5% chance of relegation. I'm not sure whether the computer was online before or after Cunha got sent off yesterday, but I'll take 5% chance of relegation at the moment. Just to mention again, the Cleveland Arms have an evening with David Kelly and Steve Froggatt next Friday night. You can get tickets at the Cleveland Arms at their website, www.clevelandarms.com. Tickets start from £15 and the show starts at 8 p.m. Thanks for joining myself, Josh and Greg on tonight's Wolves Fancast. Please press the like button before you leave. It's free and just help us get on a lot more people's algorithms on their YouTube feed. So have a good rest of your week. We'll be back next Friday for the preview show. Take care of yourselves, and as always, up the Wolves.
Thank you.